Hello, welcome to the Eurogamer.net podcast, number 119. I'm Tom Champion. With me today, B-Dog, Tom Bramwell.
Hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
Are you all right? Yeah, no, I'm a bit tired.
We'll get into that in a sec.
Okay.
Sounds ominous.
Sounds
Not that
riveting.
bad. And our pizzle, Rob Purchase.
Hello, Tom.
Beautiful. See, do you like the way I dropped some street lingo into the intro there?
Yeah, but I'm not going near that.
Well, I've seen The Wire. I've been on Ash Street.
It doesn't sound like you have to.
You've been on Ass Street.
I've been on Ash Street.
Okay.
Not Ass Street. Rather than, if not the streets.
This is just going to confuse me in my
You seem to be suffering quite audibly over.
Why are we so tired?
No, I'm just tired. Well, we're tired for two reasons. Well, in my case, anyway. We're tired because we just did Rezzed.
We did Rezzed, which was a new event that we kicked off in Brighton last weekend.
Yes,
PC and indie game show event. And without sounding too arrogant and too full of ourselves, it was all right, wasn't it? It was pretty good.
It was pretty solid, I think.
Everyone had a pretty good time.
There was a lot of good things, definitely. I think we were all very happy with it.
Yeah, some great games and lots of lovely developers and publishers came down, and also lots of attendees came and really enjoyed the game.
It was really friendly.
It was really good, wasn't it?
It turns out that all those people who are really mean to you on the internet are lovely in person.
Yeah, that is true.
I would accept it if they just sort of evened that out, kind of sort of polite in general, but not super excited. But instead, they seem to be at extremes.
Yeah, well, I've been on the forum this morning, and that balance is definitely is back with a vengeance. Okay. So that's fine without getting into that too much. But yeah, no, it was really good. So I'm really grateful to everyone who came down and enjoyed the show. Played some great games, and we're actually going to talk about a few of them.
Yeah,
right now.
Now,
including Hotline Miami.
Oh yes, our game of the show, our Eurogamer writers' game of the show.
The Eurogamer writers' game of the show. And if you haven't seen Hotline Miami or heard anything about it, which frankly I hadn't until I saw it on the stand.
I had, Tom, because I wrote a news story announcing it. So
I must have been busy that day.
Maybe trying to put the show together.
That was a job that needed doing.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah, Hotline Miami is brilliant. It's basically a sort of 1980s set, top-down, pixely action game where you go into an area and have to kill guys who are moving very, very fast, and you're moving very, very fast as well. And you've got guns and melee weapons and stuff.
It's a bit frantic.
It's incredibly frantic, and a bit like Trials. When you die, which happens a lot, you hit the R button and you just instantly respawn at the start of the section. So it's kind of got that kind of...
It's amazing how practiced people have come at pressing the R button. You now almost don't see them die, and they're already restarted.
Yeah, sort of
you don't lose anything for restarting.
No, and the music is fantastic. That's the thing that really captures people's attention, I think, is you start playing it and that's what hooks you in. It's that kind of... someone described it as a kind of a neon rave sort of thing,
Yeah, it's all the colours as well, isn't it? It's just
really,
It's striking, and it's immediately nostalgic to the original Grand Theft Auto. It plays, you control it in a similar way. I mean, it's a much.
Well, it controls a lot like if you were in a first-person shooter, but you're above yourself. So you've got your WASD strafing controls, and you're moving like that, and you're using the mouse pointer to direct your sort of fire or punching or whatever.
Yeah.
And you move so quickly, like through the levels, that you sort of tend to you sort of almost have to wind yourself up to do a bit of action. So you're standing still in a bit where you're sort of protected, and you see a couple of guys, and you're like, right, he's got a gun, that guy hasn't. I'm gonna rush in there and kill that guy, and I'm gonna move over there and kill that guy really, really quickly. And you try, and you sort of wind yourself up, and then you do it, and you die. So you do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again.
Although if you're Bertie, who I was watching earlier, he's got a much more frantic approach to it. Basically, once he kills his first guy, it's pretty much non-stop until he either dies or he finishes the level.
Which
is very impressive.
Which I did when you were watching.
Yeah, and actually that looks really good. And that is what I think gets you the big points, because you get combo multipliers for killing.
Oh, do you? I've been playing it sort of almost like kind of Hitman type thing.
Yeah,
it's very pick up and play in that when you look at it, there's not much to understand. You can see how you play. And I was watching people pick it up at Rezzed for the first time, and I think they thought, because people are accustomed to games where it kind of encourages you to win and helps you win, holds your hand a little bit.
Yeah, right.
This just sort of throws you at it, and you see people walk into the rooms, get killed, and then you see that initial shock as they settle into the system of thinking, maybe I can't just walk into this room and because you have all the guns and things from the beginning. You take them off. You loot them off.
You
start
can hold
with
one
nothing.
thing at a time, basically.
And you can have one thing at a time, and you can throw
You
it,
can throw
or you
them,
can hit with it, and you can climb on top of people that you've knocked over.
Oh yeah, and bang their heads to
and
their
kill them
smash.
with whatever weapon you have.
Yeah.
And you can, when you open a door, you knock people over, but the odds are quite firmly stacked against you.
Very, very heavily.
Yes.
I just found it intoxicating. It's got this kind of smog-like sort of aesthetic with the audio and the pace, and you just get zoned into it. Like it's almost like playing something like Wipeout.
It's quite hypnotic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so almost like dreamy and ethereal at times. And there are other elements that contribute to that, like the fact
weird.
that you're wearing an animal mask.
Yeah, right.
And you get these cryptic cutscenes at different times, and it's
Yeah, like
oh my
we're
god, it's just amazing.
Driving around picking up pizza and stuff.
It's bonkers, but I love it.
It's very refreshing, and very refreshing. Certainly when you see it next to a lot of games that you can see are going to take a lot longer to get into, and probably are going to unfold in an expected way.
Well, this is what we were talking about at the start of the year with that whole actual new games, semi-joking but not really thing that we were doing. Is games that give you this sort of sense of wonder, this tingle of excitement. And actually, this is exactly why we wanted to do Rezzed, because we wanted not only to locate more of those games, but to actually, the ones we knew about, really get into people's faces. Like Prison Architect is kind of an older concept, but like redone in a really amazing way.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing that it was lovely for the show to be able to sort of espouse to people.
And I found feedback from both the people attending the show and the developers equally praising the show for it. It afforded people space and time to give people, let people understand their games, which PC games can be a bit more difficult to understand at first glance. But lots of people were playing and getting their time, and no one felt rushed, pushed around.
There were sort of layers of indiness as well, because because Hotline Miami is an independent game. It's made by a company called Denaton, which I think is basically just this Swedish guy called Jonathan Soderstrom. I think I've got that right.
Or Cactus.
Cactus, yeah. CactusSquid.com for all of his free games. So that was there, but that had a stand because that was like a proper commercial release.
Yeah.
Whereas there was a whole the Left Field collection, which was the sort of the backbone of the show, the central most column of games, was just absolutely tons of completely indie. Barely half of them not signed to anyone kind of games that were just in development and were awesome. Like the one I always mention, just because it's my friend's making it, is Gunpoint,
which looks fantastic. Actually,
does look really nice. That's made by Tom Francis, who's a writer on PC Gamer, who's always wanted to be a game developer, and who actually we have this thing where I said to him something like, I've always thought you should be a game developer, and he says, people keep telling me that, what is it? It's probably the way you write. But so there was his game, and there were other stuff like there was Gateways, which is kind of like Portal if it was in 2D and taken to a different extreme, and done with kind of less of Valve's almost antiseptic levels of polish and containment of the player, and tons of stuff. McPixel, Barry Ball was brilliant.
Yeah,
I didn't actually get to see that, but and because we had we made some sort of miscalculation with the signage for that area, we just wrote with felt pen on the walls what the games were, and then let people write their own reviews.
What was becoming really great was that people were leaving like remarks on the walls, and then developers were putting up their very small manuals about how to play their game. They were writing like up and one of them, the controls were up and down. That was it. That's the beauty of it.
I hope we photographed all of that because it was really cool.
Yeah, a whole bunch of photos knocking around. I think on our Facebook page.
It was quite dark, but I think so that's obviously hard for a camera, but good for gamers.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we are obviously sucking ourselves off a little bit over all of this, but it was just nice having all these really great games together, having a lovely bunch of people there to play them with.
It was quite a chilled out atmosphere.
Yeah, it was. Well, not for me. I was completely stressed, certainly on the first day.
Well, I certainly didn't do very much at all.
Tom was frantically sorting out the developer session.
Yeah, because I was trying to organise all those. So I booked all the speakers, and it's the first time we'd done a show where I did that. So I was terrified either that they wouldn't turn up, or they'd be massive prima donnas, or they'd screw something up, or I wouldn't be able to get them off stage. Or
weren't we unsure that Peter Molyneux would turn up at one point, and then looked out of the window and he was doing some chariots of fire?
He was running up and down the beach, with the Olympic torch.
Molyneux had told me because I'd talked to him about it a few times, and he told me that he was going to arrive around about 3 o'clock because his son had some sort of prize to pick up at school, and he had to go to the ceremony. So he said he'd be down about 3, and his session was at 4. So I figured, hopefully it's all going to be fine. And as it turned out, it was, but it was a bit hairy because we were starting to get quite close to his session, and no one could find him. And of course, he was basically because he can't go anywhere without getting mobbed at a show like that. So he was just downstairs, like being accosted by people who wanted to interview him. So we had to kind of go and extricate him and say, no, we need him. He needs to come and do this massive presentation to 500 people. So that was stressful. But it was like those were all really good as well, I thought. I don't know if you guys watched any of them.
I watched quite a few.
I caught a bit of some of them. Obviously, I was around the show for quite a lot, but I was.
We're putting the videos up for most of them on the website.
Yeah, right? I think is the Pete Molyneux one's up.
Molyneux's up.
Indie Stone.
I just put up the Indie Stone Projects On Board one, which was really good actually. That was the first one of the show. We knew it was going to be a good show. I think once everyone came in for that, because there were like 250 or 300 people or something. Yeah. We were like, oh god, if that many people are coming to this, then the others will be fine. DayZ, Dean Hall, his session's up as well if people want to watch that.
That's a really good one to watch. I watched that one. He's if you don't know about DayZ, you should make a bit of time to go and check it out. It's an Arma 2 mod, which is a hard as nails zombie survival world. It's,
multiplayer thing with permadeath and persistence and stuff.
And it's got nearly half a million players.
Well, yeah, what was really funny actually is how unfazed he is by all of that. Like you can tell he feels a little bit. I don't know if aggrieved's the right word. I think he's like done some interviews where he's basically been like, maybe I don't know whether he's said this, but it feels like if you
he has owned the story. I'm just writing at the moment
that made that game, and someone made a mod for it who you employed, you might. And it was really, really successful and shipped and sold like hundreds of thousands of copies of the game. You'd probably be like, maybe we should sort of do something for that guy.
Help him out.
Get him a watch or something. But no, he was great. And he told me actually before the session, when I first sort of met him, he was saying that he doesn't even really like the name DayZ. He was like, I just called it that because it. I think it was because it was easy or it fit some URL or something.
Do you think he's getting bored of being asked how to pronounce it?
Yeah, I did ask him.
I said I'm presumably you call it DayZ because the US audience. He said yeah, and I said we prefer that because it sounds like Daisy, which is really sweet.
Daisy. Unlike zombies, which are not sweet, Bertie.
They aren't sweet. No, and he's also a very charismatic guy, and he's a natural speaker, so it's entertaining as well.
And he's from New Zealand.
Yeah, he's got a very thick New Zealand Kiwi accent.
It was fun actually because he kept saying things and then apologising in case anyone didn't understand. We're like, no, we're British, we do understand.
Yeah, no, we get you.
We get it.
Another one that's obviously this was Rock Paper Shotgun helped put on the show as well.
Yeah.
And the session I saw of them, the quiz, whatever it was called.
Oh, the 5th annual indie mud wrestling competition. Yeah. Rock Paper Shotgun. They've just put that up on their site.
Was hilarious. So. Do go and watch that.
Yeah, John Walker, who hosted it, is just brilliant. He should be on the radio or something.
Yeah, that was incredible.
And that is a compliment. I'm not saying.
It's not quite up there for TV, but you know.
Yeah. And I think I probably feature on it as well. And that's not why I'm saying it, but I did try and get in on the.
You tried to get into the shot, did you?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
How did that go?
Good. I did a pun. Unsurprisingly, they were asking for puns.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I couldn't help
and
myself.
You shouted.
You should have rapped. Really?
I was going to. I'm thinking about becoming a rapper. If any of our readers could offer me some tips.
After the encouragement you received from Snoop Dogg.
Didn't he say when you asked whether you should be a rapper, hell no?
He said I was going far, and to which I replied, what do you mean, as a rapper?
And he went, hell no.
He disagreed with that sentiment.
Yeah, right.
In his own inimitable way.
Yeah.
What a guy.
Or imitable, as I've just proved.
I've got a picture of me and him on my iPhone if anyone wants to see it.
What, standing on it? Or I see what you're saying, sorry. Yeah.
So I think I showed some people at the show.
What? I haven't seen it. What are you doing?
I'm just standing there going like
that. Oh no, I've seen it on Facebook.
With my dog.
Yeah,
with my doggy.
Are you still in touch?
I haven't spoken to him since the show.
Despite the numerous calls, letters, and email campaigns.
Poems.
Yeah. Yeah, this will be the 50th email unanswered, but
well.
I'm not sore because he smiled at me.
No.
Well, once.
Back to Rezzed though.
All I can think about is Snoop Dogg now.
What I did enjoy, because I'm a bit of a tyrant, was ordering the speakers around, because what you don't realise, is that they need to be told what to do, like quite a lot. You can't just sort of say to them in an email, turn up and do this, because when they get there, they're like, what do I do here? So it was quite funny, like people like Randy Pitchford and Molyneux, I would sort of go up to them and go, hello, how are you doing? Right, I'm going to introduce you, then you're going to talk, and then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, then you're going to get the hell out of here, so I can get these people out of here, and then we can all go about our lives.
So how did you find it up on stage? Was it daunting announcing someone in front of some of the bigger crowds?
Not really. I mean, I'm not saying that to try to sound smart or anything. It's just I think, I was saying this to somebody the other day actually. Like Chris Donlan did this interview with Neil Stephenson the other
which
day.
is brilliant.
Yeah, and in it there's this brilliant quote from Stephenson which I actually liked so much I made a note of it because.
Do you want to see my picture?
No, it's fine. Let me just find it because it's. He said, like many introverts, he was talking about how when he goes on the road to publicise his books and stuff, and he said, like many introverts, I'm capable of adopting a persona and going out into a public place if there's a reason to. And I can understand that because I'm not actually I'm quite a shy person in a lot of social situations, and that sort of stuff doesn't come easily to me. But for some reason at Rezzed and the Expo, I'm quite good at just kind of hopping up on the stage and just getting on with it. And sort of introducing people.
When you do have that kind of pressure to do something like that.
Like you're standing in front of a group of people, you're not really thinking about the people, you're just thinking about, right, for this to work, which it has to work, I have to do this. I have to do this now and it has to work, so you just do it.
Yeah, right.
But no, I think the only stress came from just waiting for the show to start on the first day, because I was pacing around. And Bex, who does our logistics and stuff, just kept telling me to go away. Like, can you stop pacing? You're just making me nervous, which is fair.
But I mean, there were lots of the other sessions as well were very good. There was a Creative Assembly one where they showed first public footage of Rome 2, of course, which everyone got very excited about, and so they should, because it's going to be.
It's one of those games that looks like a next gen game basically, because it kind of is, even though it's it's a PC only game, but they're designing for a proper PC.
They make no bones about saying that this game won't work on console because console just is nowhere near powerful enough, not yet.
No, and also
next gen perhaps, but
input methods and stuff as well. I would have thought.
I don't think. Again, I'm going to write a story on this. But
cool, spoilers.
They're not so bothered about apparently about controlling. That's never been their bugbear. Their bugbear's been power.
Cool. Shows what we know. What me anyway.
But yeah, so that looks really good. And it's too early to show the game. In playable form.
Yeah. But they had really cool footage of it.
And they had a centurion or a legion, a legionnaire, and a senator, not from America.
No.
From ancient Rome.
Well, actually from Horsham.
Touring the floor. And in fact, I played against them in a Quake 2 bout, because we had a Quake 2 tournament.
Tell you what, that Quake 2 game, I reckon that'll go far.
Yeah, and everyone
got a chance.
Everyone seems to have been schooled in Quake 2, because there didn't seem to be someone there that couldn't just sit down and rail.
It was great. It's almost like it was a really good, timeless, intuitive, accessible game.
Yeah.
No, that was fantastic. One of the sessions I really liked, just to keep banging on about them, but was the introversion one for Prison Architects. Oh, it was great because it was Mark Morris, who's the MD of Introversion, although as he put it, the company is two people, him and Chris DeLay, and he neither manages nor directs Chris. But it's him and Chris DeLay, who's the programmer and designer and whatnot, the game guy effectively, and he was saying. Chris basically talked through how, and we're going to put this session online tomorrow actually, but he talked through how they had this game Subversion, which he was working on for years. And it was this incredibly intricate simulation of sort of heists within a procedurally generated city with all these different. It was amazing. It looked incredible. And he basically talked about how he realised it was kind of a rubbish game, and how he couldn't make it good. He couldn't really see because he had all these amazing systems. Like you could go into. The example he showed was he played a chunk of it. He showed this level he'd built, which is like this really complex diamond heist level.
Right.
And there's this huge diamond in the centre of this room with crisscrossed with laser beams, and there's patrolling guards and all this stuff. He's done all the AI for all of this and stuff. All of the security beams are controlled by individual cables going to junction boxes in a sort of server room thing, controlling all the security and all of this stuff. And he's modelled all of this. And he was like, but you can just wander around and shoot that guy in the head and then you've won the level, basically. So it's pointless. And so anyway, he was talking about how he went from that, and that realisation, which must have been really heartbreaking, to through his natural love of how the world works, the sort of the systems behind it.
I thought you were going to say through his natural love of prison.
No, because he was saying he went to Alcatraz and he started looking at it and going, wow, okay, how does that work, etc. And eventually, through that holiday trip he took, he decided to shift some of the tech that he'd used in Subversion, because he'd been working on a prison level for one thing, which partly inspired him as well, towards this other game that they've now made. And the whole talk was really fascinating. He showed lots of examples of both Subversion and Prison Architect.
Did he talk about the ethics of it anyway? Because a lot of people have brought this up.
A little bit.
There's electric chairs and obviously prisons are.
Well, the game is a management sim, a prison management sim, which in itself is more complex than its cutesy looks might make you think. But also there's this layer of ethical debate on top of it. And in the demo that was on the Rezzed show floor, the ethical debate was execution, and the debate surrounding putting someone to death on an electric chair, and they've been convicted by the law, and it's how you handle that as a prison runner, and it's quite.
Can you have last minute reprieves?
I don't think so.
It is a really interesting area, and it's kind of. Loads of people really loved Prison Architect on the show floor. Like, we came very close to making a game of the show. Hotline Miami only really just pipped it by a little bit. But there is definitely this other aspect to it, which is you're not always forced into thinking about by video games. And I don't, to be fair. They clearly isn't designed in order to sort of, it isn't designed as a kind of cautionary tale or
it's an extra.
Or a lesson about any of this. It's more that this is just an aspect of it, almost on a kind of an emergent sort of level that they need to figure out. And they were talking about how they'd been talking to people and doing research and trying to get a better handle on that side of it.
I asked Mark about this when I went to chat to them on the show floor, and I said, so have you been going to prisons to check all this out? And they're like, yeah, and we have we've had people, specialists, I guess, prisoners, and people on both sides working with us to help. And I said, as a PR stunt, you should get people playing this in prisons, prisoners, and then like the wardens and things playing it. They're people. And he said, that reminds me of a PR stunt we did for DEF CON, which is their nuclear readiness game. And they said they sent it a copy down, or got a copy installed down on some US submarine, like nuclear submarine or something, which frightens me a little bit.
It's quite interesting that their games sometimes go in this direction, isn't it? It's like they clearly don't make them like that for any particular reason.
Yeah.
As in they don't do it in order to raise these kind of intellectual debates so much as they just like the systems.
Yeah.
Delay is clearly a guy who loves systems, but they have kind of ended up making a game about global thermonuclear war, another one about running a prison, one about effectively Darwinism and self-determination. It's all quite weighty stuff, really, but you get the impression they mainly make them because they like fun video games.
Another
which I respect.
Another aspect of their talks, they've been at the Eurogamer Expo. They've given talks, a few of them, in fact, and a theme of their talks seems to be them almost getting up on stage and apologising first off for products that haven't materialised or done as they expected. And there's this real kind of, not heartbreaking tale, but they've become the real underdog because they blossomed before the indie scene was really there. Yeah,
they were, because with Uplink first of all, and then to a certain extent with Darwinia, they were seen as this kind of great white hope for British games development, that it could exist outside the publishing model and so on. And they went, they had these real peaks and these real troughs. I remember reading an account of what happened when Multiwinia launched.
Yeah.
And basically they had like a launch party, and in the corner of it, when they put it on sale, they had like a ticker that would show how many copies they'd sold, and in the end they thought it was broken because it wasn't showing anything, and like those moments must have just been like shattering,
because they thought they were on something, and then they had a whole messy Darwinia Plus relationship on Xbox Live Arcade. But the point is, they've had all these things, and now they're back down to a real skeleton staff of just
it's literally Mark and Chris,
Morris and Delay. At one point they had 5-7 people in a little team, and I really Prison Architect it's shaping up. What we saw was great, and I'm really excited for it. I just fingers crossed, because I really want it to.
Yeah, I hope
they deserve a break. Those guys.
I hope that the subject matter doesn't affect how it does. Years ago, I remember and I may have dreamt this, but I'm
Manhunt.
sure I remember reading an article about the making of Theme Hospital. And the original idea behind Theme Hospital wasn't going to be that it was going to be all these cutesy, fathead, whatever illnesses. It was going to be like the progression of how medical treatment progressed kind of like throughout the Middle Ages to the Victorian era. So people would come in with like proper illnesses, and you'd have to like amputate their legs and stuff.
So it was like you could plant a leg in the ground, and then 10 years later come back and no.
Not quite. There was no dogs.
Into beautiful.
No dogs either.
Unfortunately. Acorn tree.
But in the end, they decided that that perhaps wasn't the best way to go. It would be a little bit difficult, so they went to something more cutesy and abstract, like how Theme Hospital ended up being.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the audience, the appetite for something like Prison Architect is quite obviously firmly there.
It taps into that whole thing that you get from games like Roller Coaster Tycoon or Dungeon Keeper and that sort of thing. People just like making places, fun places. Yeah. And admittedly, a prison isn't a fun place, but the systems about it, the systems around it, like there's a sort of Pavlovian sort of satisfaction to tidying up, and that's what it kind of is. It's like, and they have these really nice touches as well in it, which all feed into that kind of that sort of cycle that you get into in your brain. There's like the way that you draw the outline of the thing you're building, and then then you move on to doing the next thing as workmen arrive and start building it. And it's not an instant thing. You don't just lay it down and then it's there. It's being built.
It's like settler style.
Yeah, it's almost like you're running through the site planning, and then people are executing your plan.
Yeah.
So it's really cool like that.
Good use of the word executing.
I didn't even think of that.
But that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, so many of those sort of resource management games have adopted that kind of cute style. I can't think of too many.
Tropico?
And even Tropico is a good point, actually. Although it is ostensibly a game about a dictator, there's very much in Tropico a sort of tongue-in-cheek style to it.
Well, you know, what's not funny about a Banana Republic, where citizens are oppressed by you in this case.
Usually me with a big crown and a big fat cigar.
Do you play that game with like a Burger King crown on?
Why wouldn't you play that game with a Burger King? So I can't... it'd be interesting to see how well it does.
Yeah, but like I say, it's another fascinating game.
Yeah, of course.
Regardless, it's one to keep an eye out.
And what were some other things? There was
well, I was going to bring up a few other notable titles that were playable on the show floor. Tengami.
Yeah, I know this is shameful, but I don't really know anything about Tengami. Can someone explain it to me?
I know this because John Bedford, who is the Modojo editor, is head over heels with it. Every time I saw him and say, "What have you played? And what have you liked?" Oh, Tengami is the best thing here.
Yeah, he came into the organiser's office at one point and said, "I've just played, I think, the best mobile game I've ever played," or something.
Yeah,
like that.
And it's a pop-up book. Essentially, it turns your iPad into a pop-up book. I'm afraid that's as far as my knowledge gets. I don't know if it's a choose your own adventure style pop-up book or.
It's a stunning looking game. It's made actually by Nyam Yam Games, I think.
Those guys, yeah, no, I know them.
And they're ex-Rare devs.
Yeah, that's why I know them, because I like to keep track of people who've worked on Viva Pinata or near it.
A close track, close one.
Absolutely. I hide in their bushes every night.
And I think it's just for iPad at the moment, so I don't know if there are any other plans.
I doubt if it looks that pretty. I don't know
for other platforms.
Yeah, but yeah, it's. I couldn't tell you that much more about it, but I do know that John Bedford is an excitable man. And,
if Bedders likes it,
if he's praising it to high heavens, then it's where he plays a lot of iPad and iPhone stuff. Hence him being the editor of Modojo. So if he's really excited with it,
Natural Selection 2.
Yeah, that was I didn't get a chance to play it on the show floor, although I hear it was busy a lot. I was in that sessions room all day, every day. But I saw Hugh Jeremy from Unknown Worlds do the session where he showed it to the audience and talked it through, and that was notable for two reasons. The first is that he almost fell through the big screen.
Oh really?
Because, I didn't know that. You know the back of the stage. There's like a 12, like a 10-12 inch gap to the stand with the screen, and we had this massive screen. It's like, I don't know what it was, like 25 feet across or something. And he almost put his hand through it as he was bracing himself, and I was like, "Oh my god, please don't do that! Please don't break the show on day one." But the other thing about it is how cool that game looks. It's basically it's derived from the Half-Life 2 mod that existed a while ago, and it's an asymmetrical, strategy-infused multiplayer action game where one player rather controls is the commander class, made famous by things like Battlefield
Savage
2
I think.
and Savage Battle for New Earth, even though I think natural selection originally invented it. Basically, you get a sort of RTS-style top-down perspective on the action, and you can build stuff whilst your teammates are running around in first person, clobbering each other. And it's class-based. It just looks glorious.
You can also be monsters, can't you? There's a monsters species.
Yeah, well, that's it. The one team is aliens, and the other is Zen-like, xenomorph type enemies. I say Zen as in the end world bit of the first Half-Life. It does have that kind of very green, goopy alien feel to it, and it's generally look fantastic.
I can't remember the name of the guy I was talking to on the show floor from Unknown Worlds, is it? But he said that it was busy when I went down.
Was he the
there.
likeable Aussie guy? Because that's Hugh Jeremy.
No, he had longer curly hair.
Oh, okay, I didn't mean that guy.
He said that people kept coming back. He said that they've had quite a lot of people that they'd seen either the day before or early that day coming back to play again, and he said that this is great.
Actually, one of the nicest things for me about the show was talking to some of the indie devs afterwards, like after the show, them saying that people actually like came up to them and played the game, went, "I'm going to buy that," and then went home and bought it. Like they were, and if you look at our exit survey data from people who filled it in, thank you very much if you did that, by the way. It does help us make the show better. A lot of people said, like for Zomboid, for example, they said, we watched the session, it was great. I went home and bought the game on the internet.
Yeah.
Ain't that cool?
There was something about the type of people that came to Rezzed that, I mean, maybe just because they're PC gamers, they're that much more invested in video games and they know a bit more. But there was this real kind of maturity and exploratory nature about them that they were giving
interest. Like it wasn't that they were just there to play a bit of FIFA and play. They wanted to find stuff.
Yeah, and they were chatting and praising, you know, the developers were on the show floor by their games.
That was the brilliant thing.
It wasn't a bunch of models or booth babes.
All of the games and sessions generally. I mean, there were a couple of more commercial games there, like Far Cry 3 or Borderlands 2. Although even those had are games which the PC sort of gamer has a greater affinity for than most. But everything had this kind of independent spirit about it. There was a real kind of vibe that was very particular to the way that PC gaming works, and I really loved that about it. And the atmosphere is so different to. I mean, the Expo is brilliant. You know, we all love Eurogamer Expo, and it's massive, and that's our next focus. But
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It is massive.
But it is that. But it's also those games. You know, we have an indie arcade there, but it's a side element. It's a sort of extra bit. The focus is you want to play all these big games that are coming out in the next 6 months. You don't want to go to the Expo necessarily specifically to try and find some games to like. You want to go there because you know Assassins is there. What are games that we've announced?
Tomb Raider
is there. I have to think about the ones that we haven't actually said. You want to go and play those because you know they're there. Whereas Rezzed, you can kind of go and find stuff and find yourself.
This is deep.
It's a voyage of personal discovery.
Well, hopefully our experience in Rezzed will enable us to bring some of that atmosphere to parts of the Expo next year.
Yeah, Does it mean there'll be a Rezzed next year?
Wow, you've put me on the spot there.
Well, I've already basically said yes on the internet several times. Although, as you remember, I've done this in the past.
Yeah.
No, but we of course we'll do it again. It was great. We had so much fun. We'd be fucking idiots not to do it again.
Yeah, I don't think there's any point being coy about it, is there?
I think I've pretty much.
I think you've nailed your colours to the mast.
I think there was a general surprise, maybe at the level of positive feedback, given that maybe we're used to dealing with an expo audience, which is different.
The Expo audience, it's interesting how, like, if you look at the crossover between the shows in the data we have from attendees, there are a lot of people who do come to the Expo as well as Rezzed, but the majority of people who came to Rezzed aren't Expo attendees. You know, I think that what we've maybe proved is that they're two two unique shows, and they have distinctive audiences, and that's cool. Because I mean, we used to have this problem in the UK where there were like competing games events, and it made them shit. In the old days when it's ECTS versus GameStars Live or whatever else was going on, it just made it all crap. But now we've got two very different consumer game shows. I think, and indeed there are other shows that go on around the country. It just kind of shows that you can have multiple things if they're all of a high quality and they do things differently to one another. I think.
Exactly, and that feels like a good place to leave it.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool, am I off then?
So
More.
hope you enjoyed that. Sorry if you found it all a bit self-indulgent, but you know I had a really good time, and so did everyone else. So
hopefully people won't. I mean, I think people like games, and we talked about those for quite a lot.
Yeah, we did, and there were some great games there.
Oh, and hey, I met Randy Pitchford's. Well, I didn't meet, but I was in the same room as Randy Pitchford's wife and child, for briefly.
Right, that was very nice.
Yeah.
Did you say hi?
I didn't get a chance actually. I was too busy ordering Randy around.
Stand there. Get on stage. Talk about Borderlands.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Tom Bramwell.
You're welcome.
Thank you to Rob Purchase.
Thank you, Tom.
I was Tom Champion, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.